So I think now is the starting time and the audience is coming. So I think we could start for the opening ceremony. So hi everyone, good afternoon to Chinese persons and good morning to Pakistan persons. So now this is Miranda coming from New Venture Corporation, the organizer about today's webinar, Pakistan Solar Energy, moving towards a brighter future. So you could find on your screen is our topic and the time and the duration. So if you have any other questions or network questions, you could raise up your hands or type on the Q&A box. That's okay. So currently, we have five famous in that renewable energy industry players here, and I would like to first introduce all speakers one by one. So the firstly is Mr. Umar Farouk, the VP Investments Pakistan from Yellow Door Energy. So as the VP Investments for Pakistan at Yellow Door Energy, Umar is responsible for managing investments in Pakistan to help C&I sectors transition to solar power. So with over 13 years of experience in renewable energy and telecommunications spanning 3 continents, Umar possesses an in-depth understanding of customer needs and brings forth the best solution for his customers. Prior to joining Yellow Door Energy, Umar was the CEO for IntelliEngine, an energy company, and also an infrastructure investment organization. He also works as the CEO of Green Industry, a German solar company, for its local operations in Pakistan. During his tenure, Umar collaborated with Alo, Kako, and Hopke in supply chain management. So this is the first speaker, and the second speaker is Mr. Omar Malik, the CEO from Shamspower, and Omar is the CEO of Shamspower, a leading distributed solar generation company of Pakistan, offering long-term PPA for C&I customers for Pakistan. Omar has over 18 years of management experience in energy consulting, new business origination, financing, contract negotiation, execution and management of renewable and conventional energy projects. And the third one is our old friend, the Mr. Lim Cheong Boon, head of product and marketing from the Trina Solar APAC. So Lim is handling product and marketing in APAC at Trina Solar. He joined Trina in November 2011 and has been responsible for product management, training and promotion of new products to APAC customers. He has over 9 years of PV industry experience and supporting a broad base of customers in different segments on product and technical matters. So the first one is Mr. Jiu Zhang, the manager of Southeast Asia and Pakistan from Goodway. So with more than 11 years of experience in PV industry, familiar with entire industry chain, long-term business development experience and sales skill, professional management, and a sales team inspiring technology, long-term man keep connection in production industry, like a photovoltaic, medical imaging system, energy, and so on. So the last one is Mr. Furkan Ali Akhtar, the CEO from Pandera Energy. So Mr. Ali has over 15 years of experience in business strategy, leadership, S&D, distribution, implementation, and project planning. As a business executive, Furkan has managed several portfolios of some of the Fortune 500 the companies in Pakistan. As CEO of Pandera Energy, he has led corporate development programs to enhance market penetration and value for stakeholders. So I think I just simplify to introduce all speakers. So for today's agenda, since today is one-by-one presentation for each speakers, so you could find the first speech is coming from the Umar, and then is Lim, Jill, Omar, and for Ken. So for each speaker, we'll have 15 minutes to have his wonderful presentation. So after all speakers' presentation, we will have 10 minutes Q&A and a 5 minutes lottery session. So I think it's very clear and simple for every webinar, but always have the valuable the contents. So for our new venture, we are dedicated to supporting key investors and developers for successful development and investment in Asia Pacific's renewable energy sector. So such as for our footprints like the Asia Pacific, China, Vietnam, Myanmar, Malaysia, Pakistan, and also the Middle East. By the way, if you have any technical issues or questions to speakers, I think you could use the Q&A box. It's very simple. And the Q&A time, just I mentioned, after all presentation over, and we will have do that. So I think now I would like to give the microphone to our first speaker, Mr. Yuma. Hello, Yuma, could you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, yes. Yeah, let me finish my sharing and you could share your screen and have the presentation.
Sure.
Thank you.
Hi guys, Assalamu alaikum. I'm here to talk about solar PPAs, which are basically power purchase agreements and their applications in Pakistan. We specifically look into solar generation projects in the MENA and Southeast Asian region. We cater commercial and industrial premises and customers and off-takers, providing savings from day one by not just developing the solar projects, but also financing them. So it's basically a no capex model from our side. Our agenda for today is we'll start our presentation by giving you a small background or a short background about Yellow Door Energy, our company. Afterwards, we'll focus on what exactly is a solar PPA or a power purchase agreements. Few success stories in Pakistan and in other countries like UAE, Jordan, and Saudi Arabia. And lastly, but not the least, we will focus on why it's important for you guys to work with us and some summary and insights about how to progress further. So before we talk about the background of Yellow Door Energy, let me just tell you our vision. It's very plain and simple, and the idea is to power emerging economies reliably, efficiently, and sustainably. So a bit about our background, and the whole story started back in 2015 when I founded our offices in two countries in parallel, UAE and Jordan, and we entered the local market in 2019. And since then, we have been expanding our operations, and so far, apart from Pakistan, UAE, and Jordan, we are also operating and have offices in Saudi Arabia and Bahrain. In terms of our C&I customers and in terms of our portfolio, we have already are in the process of either developing, financing, or commissioning 120 plus megawatts of solar projects in UAE, Jordan, and Pakistan, and again Saudi Arabia. And ultimately, like I said before, the idea is to become your sustainable energy partner in order to give you savings from day one. A bit about how we finance our projects before doing a deeper dive into power purchase agreements. So in a nutshell, we have two ways to finance our projects. The first one is obviously on equity base and the other one is on debt base. So back in 2019 in January, we raised $65 million and our shareholders right now are IFC, which is a subsidiary of World Bank, Mitsui & Company, which is the largest Japanese organization, Epicorp, which is Arab Petroleum Investment Corporation, which is basically an arm of OPEC, investment arm of OPEC, and Equinor, a Norwegian fund. It used to be known as Statoil. On the debt side, as you can see, we raised 50 million US dollars in November 2020 with Epicorp, a long-term financing facility. And very recently, a month back, we raised 31.2 million US dollars with a consortium which is based off the EBRD, which is European Bank, DEG, and JEF. In terms of our expertise, we have a multi-talented individuals who are working for the same goal in terms of reducing carbon emissions and footprints of each emerging market where we are. And the idea is to expand further. And we have in-house expertise on the technical side, on the financial side, and let alone on the legal and on structured finance side as well. Moreover, apart from having an international team, we also have dedicated local team as well. We started off with a very small team in Pakistan back in 2019, but with the passage of time and the response from our local customers and off-takers and the success which we have achieved so far in a short span of time, we are growing in terms of number of team members as well. So locally, we have a team which is focusing on business development. We have 4 members part of that. Then we have a designated design engineer, which is Munib, and then Amir, who is looking into project execution. And effectively on lastly, on the operation side, we have Bilal with us, who is looking after day-to-day operations. So what are exactly our objectives in Pakistan? So the idea is to provide power purchase agreements to the industrial and commercial customers in Pakistan. And apart from that, we would love to partner with local experienced EPC companies, because as a company, our mandate is to design, develop, and finance solar projects. But in terms of execution, we always rely on good local EPC contractors and companies to support us achieve our targets and goals. So a bit more about power purchase agreements. So a power purchase agreement is basically a long-term contract against which we provide you with a performance guarantee on your solar plant. There is no capex or capital expenditure involved from the off-taker's end or the customer's end. You basically pay monthly, just like what you pay to the grid. And the payments only start happening once the system starts producing electricity. And what are the exact benefits of having a power purchase agreement? So the first one definitely is that you reduce your cost of electricity from day one. Since the plant starts producing electricity, you start saving at least 50%. It can go up till 40% as well. And like I said before, no capex are involved, no upfront cost. You can, by doing this, you can manage your long-term electricity costs. Eventually, you can focus more deeply and in depth on your core business. And post PPA, you can own the solar plant. And while doing so, you can probably achieve your off-takers or your customers' sustainability goals, your own personal or corporate organizations' goals, and contribute to the local environment as well. So how does it work? So basically, everything starts from a site survey and audit, where we analyze and assess the solar potential. And based on that, we provide you with a proposal with the right size and a customized energy solar solution. And once the commercial arrangements and agreements are finalized, we go into legal contract agreement discussions and negotiation. Once that is signed, we start doing the in-depth designing and then procurement, and we start building your solar system. Once the system is commissioned, we obviously also do the operations and maintenance of the system with performance guarantees. And eventually, at the end of the tenure of the contract, we transfer the system to the customer. So on a high level, what is basically the main differences between CapEx or a direct purchase, between an OpEx or an operating lease or a power purchase agreement? So in terms of project costs, the investment made by the building owner, if they're opting for a direct purchase, in case of power purchase agreement, there is no upfront cost, like explained before or mentioned before. You start saving money once you achieve your payback, and that takes a while. In case of a PPA, you start saving from day one from your grid utility because you haven't invested anything from your own pocket, or you haven't taken a loan from the bank. And similarly, moving further ahead, in terms of O&M and insurance that are already part of the PPA, and in terms of a direct purchase, that's an additional scope, which probably will come in much later. To explain further, and just to brush on a high level, if a person is going ahead in terms of a CapEx business model or a direct purchase, the only 2 or 3 costs which he will be privy to at the time of signing the agreement with the company is basically the equipment prices, maybe the installation charges, and some additional costs like logistics and few other things, maybe some licensing as well. But once the system gets installed, there are certain additional costs which are unaccounted for at the time of finalizing a direct purchase. For example, insurance, replacement parts, which eventually probably would happen, O&M, asset management, which obviously requires your resources, existing or new, to be trained on a plant and equipment which is new for them. And then again, if you're seeking for a performance guarantee, that requires additional scope or a company or a contractor. Apart from solar, we are also providing energy storage solutions on top of solar plants. So there are 3 different applications on which we are working on and which we are already proposing in the local market and the international market as well. So these are Clean Energy Plus, 24/7 energy services, and then Grid Support Plus. So let's start from Grid Support Plus. What exactly is there? So we basically focus on in terms of giving you the power quality by putting up a small battery backup, which can actually deter the spikes and hikes of the grid, maybe help you in terms of managing the frequency of the grid as well. And while doing so, you will be assured that the system does not affect your manufacturing or assembly power plant, because there are a lot of manufacturing in Pakistan and abroad, which actually bears huge losses because of these fluctuations. And then moving further from here, 24/7 energy service. This is basically if for those areas where the grid is almost non-existent, we can provide solar plant with battery backup, which can provide you with 24/7 energy. Again, the idea is to provide you with low carbon footprint, and this also gives you complete independence from the grid if it's there. And lastly, but not the least, Clean Energy Plus. This is basically a large-scale hybrid system with battery backups, and the idea is to give some sort of or for a few hours, let's say, a battery backup in which you can probably save electricity from solar during the day and then use that stored electricity in the evening or at night. Lastly, so how do we do O&M and how do we operate? So we have world-leading, world-class sustainable energy asset management system, which we call SEAMS. And the idea about this is that We do real-time monitoring of our solar plants in all 3 countries. Apart from that, the response time is immediate. And we also share best practices from one plant to another plant, because as market leaders in this particular sphere, we have already installed 120 plus megawatts of our assets in more than 2 continents. The picture which you see over here is not a rendering or a 3D modeling. That's an actual picture of one of our offices in UAE, and we monitor different parameters of each system and plant on real-time basis. Let's talk a bit about a few of our success stories in Pakistan, starting from our first project which we signed. That was with Starlight Innovations. It's a 730 kilowatts. At this point in time, the installation is in process and we are about to commission it hopefully very soon. The idea is to supplement solar electricity at least 50% of the demands of Mr. Yunus, the owner of Starlight Innovations. And by doing this, he can reduce 690 tons of carbon emission annually. If we look at other markets, specifically in UAE, we have Nestle with us as a customer. And I'm very proud to tell you guys that we have just recently signed the 3rd site with Nestle in UAE just last month. So this particular plant is our first plant at Nestle, that's Al Maha factory. It's 5.5 megawatts of ground mount, which basically compensates 85% of their energy needs. And it helps them to reduce their carbon footprint by 5,000 tons on an annual basis. Moving to Jordan, again, we look into rooftop installations and then ground mount installations. Our 3rd customer, which I would like to discuss over here, is Carrefour, which is basically internationally known as Mazda Al Fatam Group. In Jordan, we have installed a 17 megawatt ground mount PV project on wheeling basis. And we have achieved huge success on wheeling, and wheeling is one of those areas which we are actively seeking and looking into in Pakistan as well. So for this particular project, the customer can reduce 20,000 tons of carbon emissions per year. The electricity reduction in terms of savings is around 50%. And if you look at the pictures, it's just a lovely view. Coming back to Pakistan, we have a few other projects which are already signed and they are in their development stages for the execution. We are in the textile sector with Visal Kamal Fabrics. That's a 604 kilowatt system. With Razik, it's around 300 kilowatts, a logistics company. Then moving on to the manufacturing side, we have a razor blade manufacturer, a very famous one, Creed Corporation. And on the pipe manufacturing, we have Turkplast with us. If we look at Jordan, like I said before, majority of our projects are on wheeling basis. So the first 2 pictures on the left side, top and bottom, that's a single project of 4.1 megawatts, which is shared almost 50-50 between Specialty Hospital and Istiklal Mall. On the right, we have Jabri Restaurant and its pictures, then Classic Fashion with 5.5 megawatts. In the UAE, like I mentioned before, we have 3 sites with Nestle. One of them is 5.5 megawatts. Apart from that, Unilever, another multinational company, is with us with a 1 megawatt of Unilever ground mount solar system. And then we have 3.1 megawatts with Al Nabuda Automobiles. That's the company which basically owns Audi and Porsche in UAE. Moving to Saudi Arabia, we signed a solar lease agreement in Saudi Arabia with Apicorp. That's 434 kilowatts. But apart from that, we have also signed a shared energy savings contract, which is basically an energy saving efficiency project, where we will allow Apicorp to reduce their energy consumptions by 35%. Why work with us? Lastly, so probably in the C&I space, we are one of the only companies in the world which have already deployed and invested more than $100 million US in 3 different countries. Apart from that, while working with us, you can control your future expenses, reduce carbon footprint. Again, while doing so, energy cost will also be under your control and check. We provide a unique skill set and equipment where which we optimize the systems in the best possible way by following international standards. We have long-term shareholders with us, like companies like IFC and Mitsui, which have a long-term vision in terms of incorporating sustainable energy solutions in all those countries where we are operating. And lastly, we are always in the forefront of developing innovative solutions. We just talked about PPAs, about solar and hybrid system, but stay tuned with us. We will be adding more products very soon, not just in Pakistan, but in all other markets as well. Lastly, if you guys want to get in touch with me, my contact information is listed here. Apart from that, I will be present during the Q&A session. Looking forward to hearing from you guys. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for Mr. Yumer's wonderful presentation. So, and also appreciate for your topic about the solar PPA, helping businesses saving money and go green. So later, if you have any questions to Mr. Yuma, you could type on the questions or send an email for him. That's okay. So I think now this is the second speaker from Trina Solar, Mr. Lim, will bring us about the Trina Solar Vertex series presentation. So hello, Lim.
Yeah, hi.
Yes, yeah, I saw your presentation. Yeah, please.
Yeah, okay. Thank you everyone for participating in the webinar today, and thank you New Venture for organizing this. I'm Lim from Trina Solar. So today I would like to introduce about Trina Solar latest Vertex series modules. Okay, just to start off with a brief introduction of Trina Solar. We are founded in 1997, so we have been in the solar industry for more than 20 years. So along the way, we have listed in New York Stock Exchange in 2006, and then we achieved world #1 shipment in 2014. Then in just last year, we have relisted again onto the Shanghai Stock Exchange. So in terms of our brand, we have been ranked 5 times in a row as the top bankable module supplier by Bloomberg New Energy Finance. So this is some overall general market industry solar trend that we see now from third-party information. So on the top left is a module capacity forecasted trend for the next 3 years, where we do see that the multi-bus bar, the high density, will be gaining more and more market share. And then at the same time, in terms of technology-wise and the wafer size, we also see that the larger wafer size will gradually be increased in terms of the market share. And overall, because of the modules are getting bigger in dimension nowadays, so we also see that the glass production, overall glass supply, will also gradually increase in the next 2 years to support the overall module global capacity. So this is just a recap of the module power bin over the last 10 years. So you can see in 2009, where a mono module is only about 290 watt. And now fast forward 10 years, you see, especially over the last 2 years in 2019, and we see the 400 plus watts modules coming up. And then in the span of 1 year, the power bins has increased to 500, 600, and Trina has launched our 670 watt module last week. So this is a result of using improvement in technology, larger wafer size, and improvement in the cell technology and the module encapsulation technology. So overall, in terms of all the solar projects, all the developers or customers are looking at the levelized cost of energy, which is basically summarized by this equation of total cost divided by total power generation. So from the module supplier, we are aiming to contribute in terms of a competitive module cost, a high power bin, which will help to reduce the BOS cost and so lower the overall cost, and in turn we can get a lower LCOE for our customers. So this is our Trina product roadmap for large scale utility and large rooftop. So you can see since last year 2020 Q3 we have launched our first 210 mm module for 500 watt, and then in November we have started mass production of 550 watt. And now we have the 600 watt and the 670 watt, which will be starting very soon in our manufacturing line. So for the smaller footprint modules, like for the residential and the smaller CNI rooftops, we also have launched the 210 mm module for power bin 390 to 400 watt last month. So this is already in production and ready to supply. So this is the overall product model list that we have, comprising of the 166 mm cell size and the 210 mm cell size. So in terms of module technology, basically we are continuing the same similar platform of previous multi-bus bar technology, half-cut cell technology, and also our bifacial dual glass technology. So all these technologies are incorporated into our solar module to achieve the higher power bin that we can supply to the market. So just to give a bit more details on our small footprint Vertex S module. So this is available in 3 different variants. The standard white backsheet with dual frame, and our all black and just the white backsheet with black frame. So this is using the 210 mm cell size, multi-bus bar, the half cut, 1/3 cut cell, and based on the 5x12x2 layout, 120 cells. So mainly we have considered this module to be installed mainly in the residential rooftop. So which is why we have optimized the dimension and keep it to below 1.8 meters. So that is the optimized size that we can install on the resi rooftop as compared to the others. So we do a comparison of the same size rooftop using the different models. We can see that Vertex S is able to install up to 18.23 kilowatt, which is more than what the other modules can offer. And in terms of warranty, so we are offering an extended warranty of 15 years for the Vertex S for black frame and all black variant. Then standard will be first year 2% derogation and annual 0.55% derogation with the power warranty of 25 years. Then next will be our large footprint, which is our Vertex bifacial and monofacial. So this is also built on the previous platform of technology. Now we have improved starting from the top left corner. So the larger wafer size is being used now as compared to the previous generation of the 158 or the 166. And if you can see for multi-bus bar, during the 158 modules era, we are using 5 bus bar flat solder ribbon. And then for 166, we have upgrade to 9 bus bar round wire ribbon, and for 210, we are using 12 bus bar round wire ribbon. So basically, the number of bus bar increases because the surface area of the cell is also bigger. Then on the top right is a non-destructive cutting, which we use to cut our cell into half or 1/3 cut. So this is also an upgrade from the previous cutting technology. So the non-destructive cutting will be using a low temperature laser to slice through the cell into half or 1/3. So basically this will maintain the mechanical integrity of the solar cell, which is almost the same as a non-cut cell. Then on the bottom right is the high density encapsulation. So basically this is to reduce the space between each cell. So here the space will be less than 0.5 mm. And by doing this, we are able to reduce the overall dimension of the solar module. So this will help to improve the module efficiency by 0.2 to 0.3%. So using the 550 watt Vertex as an example, so this is our this is our 19 series using 210 mm cell size, multi-bus bar, non-destructive cutting, high density interconnection, and this is a 5x11 layout. So there's a total of 110 cells in this module. So this is based on a low voltage, high current design. And the advantage of a low voltage, high current design will be when we are designing in terms of system level, when we look at per string power, with a lower VOC, we are able to connect more modules per string. So this gives us a higher total power per string as compared to the others. So in this particular site that we have chosen, lower temperature -10 degrees, and based on the 1500 volt system, we can connect up to about 36 modules per string, and this gives us 35% more power per string as compared to others. And we can see that this per string power is a very important factor that will impact to the cost of the BOS. Well, besides this, we have also done extensive study and evaluation together with third-party DMVGL. So this is based on the one portrait tracker scenario. So we have done this simulation in 2 sites, one in Spain and one in US. So overall, we can see that the results tells us that by using a higher power bin module, the EPC cost will be reduced. So mainly the savings will be coming from the higher power bin of a 210 mm solar cell. So there's less number of modules to install for the same size project. The low voltage design uses less strings, so there will be less DC cables and wiring work. And overall, in terms of the tracker, the total length is also reduced, so there's less weight of the tracker involved, translating to less pulse being used in the project. So these are the details assessment in the calculation that was done for this case study. So as mentioned, the savings mainly come from the 3 parts. So the trackers, the DC cablings, and the labor cost because of the less modules that will be installed and the less tracker use. So besides the one portrait tracking scenario, we have also done the simulation for other scenarios like 2 portrait tracker, 2 portrait fixed tilt, and 4 landscape fixed tilt. So overall, the results are quite conclusive, showing that by using a higher power bin, we can achieve more savings in the BOS. So next, I would like to introduce about our latest 670 watt Vertex model. So this is a 2.3 by 1.3 dimension module with the highest power up to 670 watt, efficiency 21.6%. So you can see for our backsheet variant, backsheet monofacial will be approximately 33.9 kilos. And for the dual glass bifacial, it will be about 38.7 kilos. So this is also based on the low voltage, high current design concept. So a lot of times we get questions on as the module becomes bigger, how is the reliability, how is the mechanical loading? So by considering this static loading of 5,400 Pascal front and 2,400 Pascal back, we have improved our module frame design to be able to withstand and pass the IEC standard required for this 61215 and 61730. At the same time, because our cells are using the non-destructive cutting, so it is also able to better withstand the mechanical loading. So on top of that, we have also considered the transportation and logistic concern. So on the left, you will see the conventional packing is based on the 2-layer stack. And for this new 670 watt module, basically we are using a vertical placement. So this will eliminate the challenge of fitting into a 40-foot container. So this is how you look like when we put all the pallets into the 40-foot container. So overall, compared to the other modules, our power per container is actually higher, approximately about 12% when we compare a 670 watt to a 540 watt module. So on top of this, also we have a lot of question or concern on how these high current modules can match with the inverters. So on the left here is a central inverter. So basically we have worked with the major inverter suppliers on the central inverter. So there's no problem to be compatible with Trina Vertex module. So in terms of the system design, the fuse capacity has to be upgraded from 50 amperes to 30 amperes. And on the right is the string inverter. So we have also worked with the major inverter suppliers on the strings inverter. So all these suppliers will have compatible models that will be coming out to the market in the next 1 to 2 quarters. At the same time, for ground-mounted projects, bifacial modules has been gaining rapid popularity. So we have also worked with the top 8 tracker suppliers here. So all of them have compatible design to fit for Trina Vertex module. So in conclusion, Trina, we are very excited about this 210 Vertex module. So we have 4 factories in China that is fully capable of supplying the Vertex module, and 2 factories overseas to supply for the US market. So we have aggressive plans to ramp up our cell capacity and module capacity in the next 1 to 2 years. So besides module, Trina also has our own Trina tracker solution. So basically it's a combination of the smart tracking algorithm together with Trina tracker plus Trina bifacial module to help increase the power generation for the ground mounted projects. So there's 2 different Trina tracker that we have. One is the Vanguard and one is the Agile. So this is targeted for different site conditions. So Vanguard is 2 in portrait and Agile is 1 in portrait. So lastly, just some case studies for Trina Residential, how we can fit the Vertex S module for the residential rooftop. And then for the CNI rooftop, we can use our 500 watt module or our 550 watt module to install for the commercial and industrial rooftops. Then lastly, for utility wise, we can use a high power 550 watt or 600 watt or 670 watt modules for the large scale utility plants together with the tracker. So once again, this is our Trina Vertex family. So covering the range of power bin. So from the left, Vertex S 400 watt, mainly for the residential market. Then our 18 series and 19 series, 500 watt and 550 for the CNI market. And then 19, 20, and 21 for the ground mounted utility projects. Okay, thank you everyone for your time.
Yes, thanks for Lim's presentation, and which makes us know the Trina Solar Vertex series, the innovative technologies, and also the project showcase. That's really helpful for us. So I think now I would like to give the microphone to our third speaker, Mr. Jiu Jiang from the GoodWe, and who will bring us about the GoodWe PV solutions and also the cases and projects. So let me welcome. Hi, Jill.
Hello, Miranda. Yes, nice to talk to you. And
Me too.
I will share my screen now.
Sure.
So can you see my screen now?
Yes, please.
Okay, I will start. Okay, so I will talking and introducing to everybody for the latest GoodWiz technology and our new invention of the inverters technology. First of all, I will brief you about our company and with a very short language that we have headquarters located in Suzhou of Jiangsu province. And we have another office located in Munich in Germany. And now we have 3 R&D center in China. Now we have more than 220 gigawatts per year's production capacity. And we got more than 2,000 global employees. And especially, we have more than 20% in these 2,000 who are only working for R&D. So the rate is more than 20%, around 400 people, engineers. So GoodWiz is a technology leading trend company. And we have global 5 local repair centers and a global call center. And in the history, GoodWiz already get awarded and ranked by many third parties like IHS, okay, UPD, TUV Rhineland Wood magazines. We got a lot of awards, including #1 of the hybrid inverters, #4 of 3-phase string inverter. And we also got a best design solar inverters special award from Red Dot. And this is our global cooperation partners. And a very interesting, very fabulous thing is since last year, April, we started a global partnership with GE Electronical. And in the future, which means the GoodWiz teams will not only stand for the GoodWiz brand, but also we have another brand that is GE. The GE will be offer our granted to using the GE license and the brand on our GoodWiz products. And we will start to design and manufacturing and selling and the service for GE brand. Also, okay, I will offer from this part, I will offer to you about our new technology. First, just like the Mr. Kim just mentioned, Mr. Kim from Trina just mentioned that nowadays the PV modules, they just increasing their ISC, okay, the input current, and our new generation products, it can fully accept 15 amperes for each string, okay, and our inverters can support the bifacial PV modules plus the tracking system, especially our inverters, we support the AC terminals, which means the AC terminals could supply the AC power directly to the tracing system. And meanwhile, our products could able to have the communication with the tracking system. We can monitoring and control the tracing system in our monitoring system. And for floating design, for floating projects, we also offering a package solution, not only the inverters, but also the transformers, okay, foundation platform, and weathering environment detector in here. And all this kind of design, package design is offer the customer with a very easy platform to maintenance, because on the floating project, normally people need a boat to driving to the station and to do the maintenance. So the highly centralization placement is very important. And we have integrate the PID repair board inside of the products, IP66 protection for the whole machine, IP68 protection for the cooling fan. So all of this is make sure our products could be well applied on the surface working environment of a floating system. And we have a very fabulous technology that we call IV curves or IV curve diagnosis. We're supporting the online IV diagnosis at plant level, subarray level, even inverter level. Okay, 3 kinds of levels. Automatically generation of analysis reports for site level curves. And very easy to use. Just one button can operate this fabulous function and saving the cost for laborers and very quick of the detection time. For example, even a 100 megawatt power station finish the full diagnosis period only less than 30 minutes. And Goodwill products, we highly respect of the protection and enhance the stability. We integrate with the Type 2 SPD on DC and AC both sides, and we integrate the remote shutdown function. In here, just one person to press the button, it can shut down all of the inverters. Maximum 40 inverters could be emergency shutdown. And we have a leading technology we call AFCI, detecting the arc of the PV modules and the PV arrays. And frankly speaking, our AFCI, we already upgraded to second generation compared with the last generation, the FCI 1.0. The second generation of the FCI technology, we can successfully monitoring and report over 90% of the arc which happened in your PV panels. And Goodwill's products is only string inverter we can integrate the AC terminal temperature detection. Okay, so give you a more safety protection of your your power plant, utility power plant or CNI projects. And Goodwill, we have very easy way to reach the zero export solution for high voltage power grid. Only needed to install EasyLog products. It's also Goodwill's products for communication, and Goodwill smart meter. With these 3 items working together, you can very easy to achieve 1,000 voltage and 25 kilo voltage. These 2 kinds of zero export solution. With this kind of match, we can make the utility or CNI projects increasing the self-use ratio. And some other features, for example, because the excellent design for the heat dispatch bath, so make sure the Goodwill products have the long-term generation and a reliable quality more than everybody expected. And for in here, like this picture, if the environment temperature like 36, consider it about Pakistan, in the summer or in the autumn, the temperature will be higher. You see, even the environment temperature arrive 36, it still can achieve 250 kilowatt output, 100% output. And even the environment temperature achieved to 50 centigrade degrees, no problem. The output still can keep 200 kilowatt output. And let's make an example. If you're using a new generation products from the JA Solar, okay, like this kind of PV panel, that's new generation PV panels. Okay, with the Goodwill products, you see the DC capacity can get more than 370 kilowatt, and the maximum AC output can getting close to 250 kilowatt. So the DC AC ratio will be achieved 1.52. But compared with a traditional inverter, okay, if we using the same PV panels, match the subarray, you see the DC AC ratio is much less than Goodwill's. Okay, this, yeah, I just explained it before that we integrate with the type 2's SPD function. And we integrate the type 3, a high level SPD protection function into our communication board, because after our R&D engineers long time searching, plenty of the occasional happened with the lightning tender just shock the communication board and make the whole system failure. So we enhance increasing the protection to the communication board. And SVG is a very important function, because regarding to the CNI projects, SVG is the unerodable situation and problem. So traditional way is every owner needed to buy SVG cabinet. Okay, you know, SVG cabinet is expensive devices. But if you're using the GoodWe HT products, no problem. We have integrate the SVG functional unit inside, and compare with the others SVG using the TCR model. Our SVG is using IGBT integrated, and with the IGBT support, we can get faster reaction time, less than 10 milliseconds, and it can filtering 50% anharmonic during the compensation. Okay, and all these we do is to saving the SVG cabinet's investment or cost. And our HT products, we have multiple different kind of communication ways. We can use the USB port to contact with a Bluetooth module, and connect with our Solar Go app on our smart devices, Android or Apple. And you can connect with the laptop plus the LAN cable with our computer laptop. And even if you want to upgrade your machines, inverters firmware, it's very easy. Just using one piece of the USB flash driver, you can very easy to get each machine just getting the firmware upgraded. And with the traditional IS485 connection port, you can access with the GoodWe SCP3000 communication box, Easy Lock communication devices, SEC 1000 communication box. You can achieve the multiple units communication. Okay, and you can support the third-party other devices. Only the devices support the Modbus protocol, then it can recognize by our inverter. And it's also can reach very important safety function, that is remote shutdown and emergency shutdown. And the GoodWe's products, we support the power line communication. Okay, this is a power line, AC power line. It directly connected with the transformer. The transformer we're using the power line to contact with our SCP, for example, SCP3000 communication box. And if you are in a big PV projects, for example, in a farm, and the different subarray had separated with long distance, and you can using optical fiber to contact the different subarrays, PV subarrays, and using different SCP communication box. And then you can access with GoodWe's monitoring system, SIMS portal. And if you want to contact with the third-party monitoring platform, no problem. You can using the API support. Only it supports API, then you can access the SIMS portal. And as our SCP3000 communication box also compatible with the weather station and other devices. So our products have very special features like redundant protection, I already mentioned, operation monitoring level. You see, even every MPPT unit, we have integrated 2 sensors in here and in here to make sure all of the DC input we can get monitoring. And we support the bigger diameter AC plug. So with this 300 square micrometers, it can support using the aluminum cable to instead of the copper cable. With the aluminum cable, you can saving much more cost. And our machine can not only start by the DC power, but it also can start by the AC power, which means even in the night, you can using the laborers to finish the monitoring and the maintenance and the repair. And if you want to start the machine, no problem. In the night, you can using the power from the AC side to start the machine. And I will share you about some case study, okay, like some Switzerland or whole global case, okay, in China, okay, South Korea, okay, Netherlands, Turkey. So thanks for everybody's time. My presentation is done.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for your presentation, and also thanks for good with the support and help. So I think now is our first speaker coming from Shamspower, Omar Malik. So are you here? Omar, could you hear me? Oops. And Omar will introduce the presentation about the solar energy in Pakistan, a brief overview of on-site and off-site solar in Pakistan. So let me check with Mr. Omar again. Hello, Omar, could you hear me? Could you open your microphone? Hello? Marty has some technical issues. We'll take around 30 seconds. Wait a moment. Hello, Omar. Yeah.
Yes, hi.
Oh, okay, finally. So let me firstly change your name. Seems your name is not correct. Okay, so is that suitable to share your screen to have the presentation?
Can you open it up at your end, or would you like me to open it up?
You could open.
Sure.
Okay. That's better since you could have the presentation and control the mouse to the next page.
Sure, sure. Just give me a second.
Yes, no worries. So is there any troubles or to open?
Yes, I'm having some issues with it. Just give me a second.
Okay.
Maybe you can try to open it at your end.
Sure. Wait a moment. Yes, could you kindly see your PPT on the screen?
I can see it. Please go ahead now.
Okay. And you could see next page and I will change the.
Sure. Thank you,
Okay.
everyone. I'm sorry about the issues with the presentation. My name is Umar Malik. I'm the CEO of Shamspower. Just to give you some brief background about ourselves and also brief introduction about the commercial and industrial solar market in Pakistan, what the developments have been over the last few years, and B2B solar developer based here in Pakistan. We were the first ones to get into this market about 5.5, 6 years ago. It's still a new nascent market with customer education and customer development phases going on. So you'll see some similarities between us and regional markets as you go through today's presentation. Next slide, please. So Shams was set up with the premise of providing commercial and industrial customers with an option to buying solar power solutions using their own capital. So this is an off-balance sheet financing model whereby Shams invests 100% of the capital to deploy the solar solutions at client sites and runs and operates these plants for the duration of the contract. We have undertaken over 75 megawatts of private power as a group, which includes a 50 megawatt electric. In addition to that, we have over 10 megawatts of distributed solar across Pakistan with Metro Cash and Carry locations like Packages Mall, Nishat Hyundai Motors, and some others where these are B2B solar arrangements. We were also the first company to pioneer getting a distributed generation license from the National Electricity Power Regulatory Authority. It was a process which the same process is being followed by other companies as well to undertake power purchase agreements. Miranda, could you go to the next slide, please?
Yes, wait a moment.
So, I mean, solar, our business premise to our clients is essentially the same that any solar vendor educates them, that essentially this is a technology with a declining cost. So anytime that you get in is a good time. It's environmentally friendly, and there are increasing ROIs given where Pakistan's grid has gone and where we anticipate it to go. The savings will only increase if you lock into solar solutions as quickly as possible. These are things that are essential that everybody, because we're all part of the same ecosystem. And this is where companies who are providing on-balance sheet and off-balance sheet solutions are expected to provide the same messaging to clients. Next slide, please. The energy mix of Pakistan right now when it comes to the national grid is heavily dependent on conventional thermal sources, including all part of it. And the GOP, of course, has a policy to have a 30% renewable energy mix by 2030. So we would like solar and distributed solar and open access or wheeling, as you call it, to become a large part of that, which should be driven by the private sector rather than having government investments and government guaranteed returns factored into it, because we've seen that kind of being a lopsided approach in the past. Next slide, please. So how does solar compare to grid? About 24 rupees and off-peak rates up to about 17 rupees. And these are oftentimes without surcharges and other add-ons. We've seen in some cases peak rates for residential customers even touch up to 30 rupees. So that's very good for solar when it comes to comparison in the residential sector. In the commercial sector, you have a lot of opportunities because peak rates are as high as 26, but peak, unfortunately, in Pakistan is during the evening hours. So if you want to do solar for peak shaving, you have to have battery. And that is an area which we are working on right now to come up with a hybrid solution that includes 1 megawatt or higher battery solutions that can provide power during peak times, which is from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m., where you don't have really grid-tied solar, but you can actually beat these rates for peak grid power. The flip side is that commercial entities don't necessarily have a lot of rooftop and land. So the solar project size is a limitation with the commercial sector. With the industrial sector, you have are empty. So there's a lot of solar, untapped solar potential for rooftop solar. And a lot of factories also have excess land, which can be used. The challenge here is that you have peak rates between 19 to 21, but off-peak rates are 14 to 16. But a lot of industries have preferential tariffs for export-oriented industries where you have to beat something like 10 rupees, which solar is still not able to do in every case. It's a case-by-case basis. So in the industrial sector, which is the largest potential off-taker for solar, there is tough competition from the grid as well. Next slide, please. So typically, what is the difference between having an on-site solar power plant and an off-site wheeling solar power plant? There are two main differences at a principal level. The first one is that essentially you have land issues. Not everybody has a lot of land to provide you. So if you would like to set up a 20 megawatt plant or a 50 megawatt plant, not everybody can provide you with land within the premises to set that up. So typically what you see is on-site solar power plants are 5, maybe 10 megawatt. Usually they're 2 megawatt size range. There are no connection or interconnection involvements with the grid unless you're net metering, so you don't need excessive permissions to set this up. You need to get a generation license if you have a third-party PPA. And customers can easily switch between 5 to 25% of their total energy consumption using this power. On the other hand, if a client is interested in setting up a larger power plant than what their capacity is, storage can become a problem because battery is the only storage option if you do on-site. But if you get into off-site wheeling, you can easily use the grid as your battery bank, which the policy allows right now, even though the policy has not been formally implemented very smoothly. The policy allows you to use the grid as your battery bank for up to 30 days. So essentially what would happen is if you have a client that has, hypothetically speaking, a captive requirement for 15 megawatts over a 24-hour period, that's 360 megawatt hours, they would essentially need a 90 megawatt solar power plant to offset that. Now that 90 megawatt solar power plant could be set up 50 or 100 kilometers away, and electricity could be wheeled through the national grid. The benefit is that if during daytime the client does not have a 90 megawatt power requirement, but if they have a flat 15 megawatt requirement, they can use the electricity in a 24-hour cycle. The power plant, of course, dispatches it during the daytime hours to the national grid. This requires extensive coordination and lobbying as of right now with the government, because the government, they have a wheeling policy. But to implement the wheeling policy, practically what they need to do is give up a lot of the power contracts that they have signed with IPPs, which essentially means that they have excess power right now. So set up these power plants themselves as well. So there is some red tape in getting approval for wheeling at the moment. But the logic would be that a 90 megawatt plant would be set up X kilometers away, wheel power to the national grid, and then the consumer would offtake it from the national grid. There are penalties and conditionalities for the power producer that you have to have a minimum dispatch, and if you don't, then you have to pay those penalties. Today, the cost of solar is such that you could essentially provide clients with power at 20, 40, or even 50% below what they are paying for the national grid if you were able to do wheeling. Customers have the ability to switch to 100% clean energy, which means for clients who are in export-oriented industries who have carbon footprint targets for their products, companies who are exporting to international brands, textile companies exporting to national brands like Levi's or H&M have these requirements. They could fulfill those carbon footprint and CO2 reduction requirements using solar wheeling. Next slide, please. An on-site solar power plant effectively, sets this power plant on the client's rooftop, a carport, empty area. The plant basically injects electricity into the client's panels, and they are synchronized with the utility as well as the solar power plant and any backup generator which is there. And I mean, essentially, you have a very simple low red tape model here for clients to do. So this is what we encourage every client to do, that they should get into the on-site solar thing immediately, but still work on wheeling as things proceed. Next slide, please. So I think we can skip this slide. This is not really that relevant. This is basically clients have two options for on-site models. They can essentially buy the power plant themselves, or they can have an off-balance sheet solution through what we do. So essentially what happens is that most clients end up buying solar themselves because there is access to state bank refinance available to most clients. And this is how markets in India or in the Middle East have also developed, that most clients end up buying solar using their own capital, and about 20%, 15 to 20% use off-balance sheet solutions for it. Next slide, please. Next. So what are the pros and cons of buying it yourself versus doing a PPA? If you buy the solar equipment yourself using your own balance sheet, using your own equity, you basically own the plant from day one. There's no need to give access to any external vendor, which is a problem for some customers, having external vendors being on their site to perform O&M and cleaning all the time. And there is no long-term contract needed with anyone. Essentially, you basically do a procurement contract and then some warranties. The negatives is, of course, it's still a very high capital investment. Solar is still an 18-20% capacity utilization technology. So some clients feel that, why should I use my balance sheet for something which is essentially an 18-20% capacity utilization? They're more used to spending money for generators and turbines, which are 90% and above. The capital that you invest in the solar PV plant could easily be used for core business operations, buying new machinery, buying new equipment, and your balance sheet gets choked. There is an O&M and performance risk with essentially doing this yourself. Some clients have in-house power teams, but a lot of them don't. So they are then taking the risk that they will be managing the performance of the system themselves. There is an inverter change which is needed every 5 to 7 years. So that's something that they have to pay for themselves. Next slide, please. If you were to do a power purchase agreement model, the benefits to the clients is that they get a return on investment day one, because they get to reduce their electricity cost and they pay nothing upfront for it. There is no production or performance risk. All of that risk is borne by the company that has invested in the solar power plant. You only pay for the electricity that the plant generates. There's no O&M expense. And I must highlight that there are O&M expenses that sometimes people don't consider. There is an O&M expense of course, cleaning the equipment. There's an O&M expense with grid fluctuations and plant malfunctioning. But then there's also damage to solar equipment from aerial disturbances. Pakistan is an environment where there are strange things like people who celebrate weddings start firing bullets in the air. And these bullets, when they come down, wherever they fall, they actually damage that equipment. So we have a lot of panel damages on events like New Year's or the 2 Eid holidays, where people basically are celebrating, firing guns in the air, and when this bullet comes back, it damages the panel. So that's an O&M expense that the PPA provider bears. The site owner doesn't bear that. It also allows customers to free up their balance sheet for other activities, and they can get ownership transferred at the end of the contract. The negatives are that it is a long-term contract. Multinationals, for instance, are not really used to signing 10, 15-year contracts with external parties. It's usually 2-3 year contracts that they are most comfortable with. And the other element it is a take or pay contract. If you don't use the electricity, you still have to pay for it because the power plant is still available. And lastly, you have to provide right of access to not only the PPA provider, the investor, but also the financiers of the PPA provider, because the equipment has to be pledged to whoever the financier is. So right of access has to be provided. Next slide, please. So a bit more on the wheeling process. There is a wheeling regulation that exists in Pakistan right now from 2016. There have been a couple of companies who've been trying to, one of them has even set up a plant and is working very hard with the government to allow them to wheel this electricity to private customers, but it practically has not taken place yet. There has been some discussion back and forth between the Central Power Purchase Authority and NEPRA on the cost of wheeling. There is one mindset that the government has excess power, and whatever the cost of capacity payments for that excess power or stranded cost is going to be, has to be borne by the wheeling company. The CPPA held a round of discussions with various stakeholders led by local university alums, and they came up with a pricing model which was close to 15 rupees as cost of stranded power, which would essentially make wheeling impossible to do. I mean, you couldn't pay for the cost of solar and then 15 rupees for wheeling and still make it viable. As a response to that, NEPRA has come back with a revised model for tariff cost for wheeling, which is close to the 2 rupee cost of basically wheeling, with the exception that any technical losses for the disco will be borne by the wheeler of power. So essentially, if technical losses in a disco are 7%, you would have to dispatch 107 units to be able to offtake 100 units. Whatever technical losses exist in the network of the distribution company are borne by the wheeling company, but the wheeling cost is still less than 2 rupees, which would make wheeling viable. Unfortunately, this is still something which is not been settled because the distribution companies have gone to court against this decision. The situation is still a bit fluid to see where it finally settles. Next slide, please. I've already explained the way wheeling works, but this chart will just give you some outline. Essentially, what happens is that the power plant would be dispatching electricity to the grid. The grid would basically act as the local bank for 30 days, and the electricity can be consumed by the consumer using their connection with the national grid. Over a 24-hour cycle, if they're not able to offtake whatever the plant generated in a day, they could always do it the next day, up to 30 days. And there is a mechanism in the wheeling policy for offsetting units if they have not been consumed even in a 30-day cycle. Next slide, please. The wheeling process as it stands right now is that customers who'd like to get into wheeling have to basically get grid interconnection studies done and regulatory approvals like BPC approvals submitted to NEPRA. Once this is done, you get a second-tier supply authorization for the generation company. NEPRA is the one who issues this, and a generation license for the generation company. The third point, which is the wheeling charges approval, this is what is the moot point right now, which needs to be settled. Once that is settled, of course, you can get the wheeling charges approved by your relevant disco. Once you have the BPC approvals, you can get into the power purchase agreement and the connection agreement and wheeling agreements and the EIAs. Post-project construction and COD, you can essentially start to do the power offtake by the BPC. But this is all a theoretical process right now. Not many companies have actually gone through the whole thing. So once the existing players, which are Fatima Energy, can actually settle the wheeling charges point, it'll be a bit simpler for everyone. Next slide, please. That was it. I'm open for any questions that you have or towards the end of the session. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Omar. And thanks for bringing us about the brief overview of on-site and off-site solar in Pakistan. So I think now we need to give the microphone to the last speaker, Mr. Furkan Ali Ahita. So Furkan, can you hear me?
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yes. So please, I think you are the speech. Don't need to share any screen, right?
No, I don't have any screen to share.
Okay,
So,
okay.
First of all, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. So my name is Furkan Ali, and I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Pandera Energy Private Limited. The agenda for today is just a generalized overview and a perspective of the industry, what we believe is happening so far, and what's the way forward. Before we begin that, I would like to introduce my company. Pandera Energy is a solar EPC company operating in Pakistan. It's a Pakistan-based solar EPC company. We have been operating since 2013, and we are primarily operating in three main sectors: residential, industry, corporate and SMEs, and the government. This year, we have taken a few leaps, and we have executed over 30 megawatts of projects in Pakistan in almost all sectors, specifically, as I said, residential, textile, food storage. We've done a lot of work in healthcare, where I believe we have done more work than any other solar EPC company, especially post-COVID situation. We've done over 21 hospitals since 2019. Our business model is quite crisp and simple, like through our marketing campaigns and a team of about 200 resources based in almost every major city of the country. We reach out to the households and the industry and then sell them an EPC based model where the customer owns the asset from day one. Most of about 75% of our portfolio has been financed through the banks. There's a state bank scheme of a subsidized scheme going on, and we are very extensively working with almost all the major commercial banks of the country in all the sectors. Talking about energy storage solutions, we have been selling the same to the residential sector since 2015, but now we are also working in the commercial storage solutions, especially for CPAP-based infrastructure projects in partnership with the NLC National Logistics Company. We are executing from 500 kilowatts to a megawatt storage solution for all the border terminals from Taftan to Jamrud, Angurada, Harlachi, Wagah, which would be executed by May of this year. We provide centralized real-time monitoring of about all our systems across the country. And now let's move toward a generalized perspective of how this industry we believe is working. So if we specifically talk about the solar sector, I think so particularly in Southeast Asia and in Pakistan, it is going through its growth phase as the demand across all the sector is increasing. If we just see some of the statistics, there has been increase in imports of solar input, an average levelized import of increase of about 27%, which is very, very encouraging. Well, if you go through the variables of what increases the solar demand, well, I believe that it's mostly the economic consideration that's driven by some of the subsidies given by the grid to the consumers, which are receding by the day, be it for the household customers or for the industry. And the second thing, of course, is the awareness about the green and sustainable energy, as more and more EPC companies through their marketing drives are telling the consumers and the industry about the solar, the economic as well as the benefits that the solar product is giving to the environment, I think that is increasing a surge in the demand of the solar power plants. And thirdly is the role of financial institution and their willingness to be more liberal in terms of providing the financing instruments to the consumers. So we have to appreciate the Pakistan State Bank's role. It has been wonderfully significant, given that over 1,000 cases have been approved since the inception of this program. So overall, what we're seeing is what we have seen after COVID and since 2019, a great increase in the demand and the great increase in the execution of the solar projects in the country. But I still believe what we're seeing is just the tip of the iceberg. In years to come, I think there's more potential to be untapped. Well, as Pakistan is going through this, what I would say, a massive solarization campaign, an entire ecosystem is being built, and which was in developing stage, but I think it's a lot of associated industries, a lot of stakeholders involved with this industry have grown. They have developed their capacities. As I said, the imports of solar inputs, be it panels, inverter, or be it structures and cablings and wires, other allied instruments that go with a solar power plant, they have increased. So the vendor base have improved their the quality of their workmanship has increased. There are more and more solar EPC companies coming in by the day, which definitely means more competition for the existing players. But at the same time, I think it's very encouraging for the industry. It's great for the industry, for the economy of the country, and of course for the environment, which is very, very important. And about the compliance and about what's happening, the overall, politically and from the regulators' perspective, I think that, that the regulations by the day are increasing, be it the regulations on the import of solar equipment, I think, which was very encouraging, the addition of pre-shipment inspections and the certificates of confirmations. They have improved the quality of the input being imported in the country, which obviously then it has a trickle-down effect to the consumer level, because a healthy good import means a good product is being given to the consumer, and once that is done, I think it increases the trust of the customer, which eventually is it in a snowball effect. It travels, and then the demand of the solar projects, be it working on an EPC model or PPA model, that becomes irrelevant then. But if the demand is there, I think there is some dividend for all the stakeholders involved in the industry. Again, as Mr. Umar mentioned, as well, there are a lot of red tapes that need to be covered, especially if you talk about, and I think I speak for all from the industry when I say that this process of net metering is extremely cumbersome. Specifically talking, a file has to move through about 9 government desks, and the process has like the highest amount of redundancies, which definitely should be improved, so that the users and the customers can be facilitated. Also, I should like to talk about some of the projects that we're doing and that we have done so far. That involves about 21 hospitals that were done after the COVID. Right now, we're working in Sindh on a direct procurement model with the World Bank, in which we are executing about 5.1 megawatts of solar EPC projects for hospitals, the COVID treating hospitals in Sindh. Again, it's an extending program, and in which it would move on to more hospitals in Sindh, and then moving on to other provinces as well. So overall, I think this has been a great year for the industry, not just from a demand perspective, but also the capability that has been improvised and that is available now. And I think it provides emerging companies and already big groups a good platform to take the next giant leaps and to grow and to play an important and a very vital part in the growth of their own companies, in terms of the economy, and most importantly, the positive impact that we have on the environment. Thank you so much.
Yes, thanks for the forecast presentation, and hopes that are helpful for everybody. So I think now I would like to share my screen about the last session. Okay. So actually, I found the questions on the Q&A box. So I think, is there any speakers are very interested or available to answering this question? If no, I would like to share these questions after this webinar. That's okay. Okay. So now I'd like to announce today's lucky 10 lucky persons about the lottery time, and I will behalf of the Trina and Kudui to share about these registered audience lucky audience. So you could find on your screen is about our lucky persons. The first one is Mr. Sami Ahmad from Energy Futures Consulting. The second one is Sajed from the Infraco Energy. The third one is Nigel Chu from Infraco Asia. The fourth one is Zhuang Wing from VCSC. The fifth one is Samuel Sam from JA Musu Leasing Singapore. The sixth one is Han Nawaz from Moon Electronic. The seventh is Mujadet Nawaz from Humor Engineering and Design. The eighth one is Mr. Bahaska Kanan from Angel Power. Also, the ninth one is also coming from the Angel Power, Mr. Chi Wing Chu. And the last one is Shuaib Malik from the Net Solar. So let me welcome for these 10 persons to have this the 20 to 40 USD dollars about the gift cards, and later our team will send this card to your email address. So the last one is for today's webinar, it might take about 90 minutes, kind of long. So if you have any questions or other opinions or comments, you could send me send me ideas to my email, and I would like to very likely to transfer the questions to the other speakers. So I think today's webinar is over, and we also have the webinars in next Monday, and also for the 14th of April. So if you have any others that you could directly send to me. Yeah, thank you for all, and thanks for joining, and also thanks for the Trina Solar and the Goodwill support, and also thanks for other speakers. So goodbye, everyone.